Okay, so you want to write the thing you have been putting off. Here is the plan you have in your head. You write a list the night before. You block out 9 until 11 in your calendar. You put your phone in the other room, face down on the bed, where you cannot reach it. You sit down at the desk at 9 with a coffee and you open the document. And then you just write. That is the plan, and it is not a bad plan. You have good reason to believe that plan will work because you have already watched yourself do the hard part. Think about the last time something was actually due. 3 days before, you did nothing. 2 days before, you did nothing. Then at about 9 at night, the night before it was due, you sat down at that same desk, in that same chair, and you wrote the whole thing in one go. Your back hurt. The kitchen was dark. You finished at 2 in the morning, and you went to bed. And it was fine. It was better than fine. You handed it in, and nobody could tell it was written in 5 hours. So you know you can do it. That is not a guess. That is something you have watched yourself do. You have written the whole thing at 9 at night with a deadline in the morning, so the writing itself was never the problem, which means the only broken part is the starting. So here is the question this video is going to answer. Why can you write the whole thing at 9 at night, the day before it is due, and not at 9 in the morning 3 days earlier, when it is exactly the same page, the same desk, and the same person? The easy answer is that you work better under pressure. That is the answer most people give about themselves. But nothing about your writing got better at 9 at night. Something else got smaller. Near the end, I am also going to tell you about the fix almost everybody recommends for this. It has been tested properly on 275 people. It worked at the exact thing it was designed to do, and it changed nothing at all. Let us start with what is actually happening at 9 in the morning. In 2025, researchers took 97 students at a teacher training faculty at Muhammadiyah University in Makassar and measured something very specific about each one of them. Not how much work those students got done, not how organized they were. They wanted to know which one of several possible reasons was actually driving the delay. So they measured 3 separate things about each of those 97 students. The first was a general tendency to be slow to start. Some people are simply slower off the mark, at everything, all the time. The second was a tendency to hand the delay to somebody else. The brief was unclear. The library was shut. Somebody had not sent the file. And the third was how strongly each student avoided a task that felt unpleasant to them. Not difficult, unpleasant. Then the researchers measured which of those 3 actually predicted how much each student put things off. First, the size of the problem, because it is bigger than you think. Of those 97 students, 75% were delaying their work at a high level, and another 20% at a very high level. That is 95 people in every 100. Sit 20 of those students around a table, and 19 of them have this. And the thing that predicted it was the third one. The students who most strongly avoided a task that felt unpleasant were the students who delayed the most, and that avoidance predicted the delay more strongly than the general slowness, and more strongly than the blaming. It was not close, and it was not the other 2, which tells you something about 9 in the morning. When you open the document, look at the empty page for 90 seconds and stand up to make a second coffee. You are not failing to manage your time. You have just been handed a feeling you did not want, and you have quietly put it down. So the first study tells you the delay is about a feeling. It does not tell you which feeling. A second team went looking for that, and they picked exactly the right people to look at. In 2024, researchers tracked 358 students at Ahmed Dahlan University who were all writing the same kind of thing at the same time. Their final thesis, one long document, months of work, and the whole degree resting on it. The researchers expected the perfectionists to be the worst delayers, and they were right. But being right about that is not interesting. They wanted to know what sat in the middle between having high standards and not starting. So the researchers measured 3 things. How high each student set the bar, how afraid each student was of falling short of that bar, and how much each student actually delayed. Then they held the fear still and looked at the standards again. And when they did that, the link between high standards and delay disappeared completely. Not weakened, gone. Setting an impossible bar for yourself was not the thing making you put the work off. Being frightened of missing it was. Let me put that in real terms. A thesis that was meant to take 6 months was running to a year, and that extra year is not spent writing. It is spent not starting. Now hold that next to the first study. 97 students told you they avoid tasks that feel unpleasant. 358 thesis writers just told you which unpleasant feeling it is. It is not boredom, and it is not tiredness. It is the fear of finding out that the thing you make is worse than the thing you had in your head. Now put those 2 studies next to each other, because together they say something that neither one of them says alone. The 97 students at the teacher training faculty tell you that you avoid the task that feels unpleasant. The 358 thesis writers tell you that the unpleasant feeling is being afraid you are not good enough at it. Put those two together, and you get something that sounds wrong the first time you hear it. You do not put off the things you do not care about. You put off the things you care about most. Nobody is frightened of falling short on a task they do not care about. The form on the kitchen table is boring, and boring is easy to start. The document you have not opened in 3 weeks is the one that would say something about you if it came out badly, which is why every fix built around your calendar slides straight off the problem. Now, I said I would tell you about the fix that almost everybody recommends. Here it is. If you have read anything at all about putting things off, you have met this idea. The reason you keep handing the work to later you is that later you does not feel like a real person. Later you is a stranger, and it is very easy to hand a stranger a problem. So the advice is to close that gap. Make that person real. Write them a letter. It is a lovely idea. It is not a silly one either, and it has a serious theory sitting underneath it. So in 2025, a team finally tested it properly. Here's what they did. Across 3 separate studies, researchers took 275 people, high school students among them, and ran the exercise for real. Write a letter to the person you will be, then write back as that person. Then the researchers measured 2 things. The first thing they measured was whether the letters had worked on their own terms. Did those 275 people now feel more connected to the person they are going to be? And the answer was yes, clearly yes, and it was strongest for the faraway version of themselves, years out. The exercise did the exact job it was built to do. The second thing they measured was whether those same 275 people actually put things off any less. Nothing. No drop in delay, no change in impulsive decisions, 0. Look at what that result actually says, because it is a strange one. Researchers successfully changed how people felt about their own future, and it made no difference whatsoever to what those people did at 9 the next morning. And the 2 studies from earlier tell you why. A letter to your future self is a message about time. It says the work has to happen sometime, and later will be worse than now. But the thing standing between you and that page at 9 in the morning is not a belief about time. It is a feeling arriving in your body about whether you are any good at this. You cannot talk a feeling like that out of the room with a letter, and you cannot move it out of the room either. Your phone has been face down on the bed in the other room since 8 o'clock, and you still have not written a word. So here are 3 things you can do, and the first one happens before you open the laptop. The first is to name the feeling before you name the task, not in your head. Out loud, in 1 sentence at the desk. I am about to write the first paragraph and I think it is going to be bad. Those 97 students were not avoiding work. They were avoiding a feeling nobody had ever asked them to look at directly, and a feeling you have not looked at gets to stay whatever size it likes. The second is to lower what starting costs you. The 358 thesis writers were not stopped by the bar. They were stopped by the fear of going under it. So make the first 20 minutes a thing you cannot fail at. Write the bad version. Write it badly on purpose, in the ugliest words you have, and do not read it back. The third is to ask yourself 1 question once a week. Researchers gave 1 group of students a tracking app for their phone and left another group alone with nothing but a short survey. Over 6 weeks, the students with the app cut their delay by 25%. The students who just answered the survey once a week cut theirs by 35%. The app lost to the question, and 7 of the 8 students with the app forgot to use it at least once anyway. So stop moving your phone. It was never the phone. Name the feeling out loud. Lower what starting costs you. Ask yourself 1 question a week, and on the morning when the page is still empty at 9:30, do not go looking for a better calendar, because there is no calendar in the world that can make you brave. Go and find the sentence you are afraid to write. Then write it badly. Send this to a friend who is trying to get something started. You will make it easier for them.